we often talk about two types of technology. We talk about operational technologies and we talk about information technologies, or ICT. What's really, I think, compelling about the fourth industrial revolution, and we've heard this phrase, digitalization and transformation taking place, and what the fourth industrial revolution will do in South Africa for heavy haul and for the region in general is, when you think about them, and one of the questions I often ask clients is, what business are you really in? Are you a railway? Are you a supply chain provider? And how you answer that question is how you innovate. And I think one of the things that I heard from the conference today, which I would completely agree with, is that there's enormous opportunity for transforming the whole region in South Africa in specific in participating in global trade. But to do so, and to be an integral member of the supply chain, you have to have reliability, which means the physical network itself has to be in a condition to be a predictable provider of services in the supply chain. And often a way to ensure that is through digitalization or information technologies, IoT, possibly things like artificial intelligence and others, so that you can take data that helps you monitor the infrastructure and will let you understand the health and then how to maintain it and being able to do that. So, clearly there is a linkage between the physical side and the operational side. Once you're able to do that, then the other issue, of course, is safety. But safety also correlates very well with predictability. If I can get in front and predict failures in the track or failures on a particular train and being able to manage to that, all of those things then will enhance my reliability in the supply chain, also enhance the safety of being able to do that. And one of the other things we heard about this morning was this multimodal transportation, that you've got this balance between motor freight and railways, freight railways, the heavy haul providers. And so one of the questions would be, how much traffic can I move from the trucking industry and the motor freight industry into heavy haul to grow capacity as well together? And again, a phrase often used is, railways are data rich but insight poor. And so at one level, a fundamental level, is understanding the data that you have, and then
analyzing it.
And then the second thing would be analyzing it using the tools like predictive analytics or artificial intelligence. One of the things I talked about today is that there's no longer a proof of concept around AI. AI has already been proven as a concept, and companies are deploying it today. What's really important is what we call now proof of value. What's the value I'm going to get in return? So, to summarize that, data, understanding the data that you have, where it's siloed and how you can bring it together, and there are various ways to do that. And then the second thing, acting on that data to give you insight, whether that's around health and safety, more efficiency, higher customer service. But again, those two things are very intertwined. And that was one of the points I wanted to bring out in this conference, is a lot of things that, if you're unfamiliar with them, seem like they're future capabilities. There's a phrase that, from a science fiction writer called William Gibson, the future is already here, it's just unevenly distributed. And so whether it's Sweden, Norway, and the Nordic countries, or whether it's the North American heavy haul providers in and of themselves, they're already using AI, they're already using predictive analytics, so they're already well underway into this 4.0 revolution. Well, so I think there's a couple of things. I think, leveraging of that information and the data even more and more is going to become critically important. When you think specifically to South Africa, and it was brought and highlighted by a couple of speakers, does the infrastructure from a telecom and data transference capability exist to be able to do that? So when you think about high-speed networks and being able to transmit information in real time, the use of drones to do real-time AI-powered inspections of track, so that you know exactly on a real-time basis what the health of your network is, so you can deploy resources to maintain it. We think about things like autonomous trains. Although not really a huge labor saver in most cases, the fact of the matter is, and we've seen this with automobiles and the trucking industry, the technology already exists. The miners, the railroads, Rio Tinto and BHP, already do it in Australia, being able to manage that. So I think it's going to be a seamlessly operated, nearly always on, highly resilient network, and a lot of what's going to happen is behind the scenes. Today, railroads also have this a public perception that they're very low tech. when nothing could be further from the truth. If you look at the sensors embedded in the trackside, if you look at just the number of IT subsystems on a locomotive and what's happening on a train today, it's already a high-tech industry. What will bring us together in 30 years is the use of all of this information for more and more insight. And because systems like AI continuously learn, you literally could turn a system on and it just gets smarter and smarter every day. So think about a railway network that never breaks, that's always on time, and is a reliable participant in the supply chain. That's what I think the future is. I did something recently, and although the numbers might be off, it talked about the numbers of jobs, for example, replaced by AI, and the number of jobs created. And recently, that study showed that there were actually more jobs created by AI than taken away by them. So what we've seen generally, and interestingly, I study the history of science and technology at university, is one technology will often displace another, but it creates a whole new set of jobs. So, for example, in some cases where there's a mundane or routine piece of work that's being done, organizations are looking at deploying AI and moving that human into a much more high-touch, customer-facing role, rather than doing something that maybe now could be replaced by artificial intelligence or predictive analytics and the like. So what you'll see is a shift in the types of jobs, but if history has shown us any lesson, that as technology moves forward, it often creates more and more jobs. And you know, if you go back to 120 years when the horse and the buggy and the whip were all being replaced by cars, right? Those same sort of fears existed, you know, with each technology revolution. And what it's found is it's just changed those jobs. And so one of the things we heard this morning in the conference was this idea of how does Africa and South Africa specifically invest in human capital? And I think one of the things we need to think about as we do in the future, what are the training programs that need to be put in place, what are the education, so that we train people for what jobs and valued skills are needed in the future rather than what's needed for today.